we are selling on credit, then what is the journal? The debtors journal. The debtors journal. And now, why do we end up having either a duplicate credit note or an original debit note? How does that happen? Why do we end up having these two source documents, the duplicate credit note or the original debit note? Why do we have a receipt? We received money. Why do we have a check counterfoil? We paid. Why do we have a petty cash voucher? We used petty cash. Like, you need to make that association. So when it comes to credit note, we bought on credit. Buying on credit, it's here. Sold on credit. Selling on credit is here. Selling on credit. Pardon? Yeah, returns by debtors. Whatever. When we wrote a sales invoice, we ran a risk that some of these things will be returned back. Some of these people are not going to pay. And then I said that we were going to look at credit losses today. Yeah, so we'll look into it. Those are what we call the other transactions. They are in somewhere here. So this we will call it sales returns. And sales returns is the name of an account. I think on page 50 there is sales returns. In that illustration, when they give you examples, we have sales returns under expenses. Sales returns. It's not there. Okay. But then note it down. Sales returns is a name of an account. Unlike credit purchases returns is not a name of an account. So, and then we go and say that where would we record this duplicate credit note or original debit note? Where would we record it? In which journal? Pardon? The debtors allowance journal. Now, what is our final journal? The general journal. So finally, anything that does not fit into any of the other journals will general. Anything that does not fit into the other journals will come into our general journal. We have a general voucher for that. So, like, a transaction will tell you that we used general voucher number. Somehow, it means that whatever you're working with at the time must be recorded in the general journal. If a transaction talks about a receipt, you know that, okay, somehow we were receiving money, even if it's ambiguous or it's not clear. Once they give you the source document that was used, you are able to say, oh, it is in this sort of a journal. Are we together? So guys, and then we go and say that now that we know where to record, where do we record? In journals. We record in journals. And then after the journals, we're going to have what? Each and every journal will lead us to working. But what? It's transaction, source document. Source document takes us to journals. We've got cash journals, we've got credit journals, we've got that one other journal that we will not mention by name. And then each and every journal will take us into the general ledger. The general ledger. What is a general ledger? Describe it. Yeah. Thank you. You had me a T account. It's okay. I don't think there's any definition of what a general ledger is. You can try and explain it in English, but there's no definition. It's just a description at the end of the day. As long as you know that when we're in the general ledger, we've got the T accounts. Then how do we process the T accounts? How do we process the T accounts? The T accounts are made, it's accounts. People, we we are not going to have credit note in the general ledger. It's account, T account. T account simply means that you start by trying to write my name, but you ended at T. And then we're going to have a name of an account. Give me a name of an account. Any account will do. Bank. You've got bank. Okay, bank. The whole idea of us having T account was that we wanted to record increases and decreases on different sides. So we've got two sides. We've got the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and we use the Latin way and say we're gonna say we've got the debit side, meaning left, and we've got the credit side, meaning right. Are we together? Now we go and say that bank as an account, on which side does it increase? On the left-hand side. So we're gonna have plus here. Obviously, we're gonna have minus that side. So it goes to say that now each and every account is going to somehow be different. 50% difference, by the way. Okay, let's give me an account that's gonna increase on the right hand side. Pardon? A loan. Okay, that's very good. We've got a loan. A loan and a bank will somehow work in opposite, because while we have the left hand side and the right hand side, a loan will increase on the right hand side and decrease on the left hand side. Now, with that in mind, each and every account is either going to increase on the left hand side or on the right hand side. That's what you need to know as a student for each and everything that's an account. And trust me, each and everything is an account until it is not an account. I mean, you cannot give me a description of saying petty cash voucher and you call it an account. Are we together? So at the end of the day, we are going to have accounts. Accounts are on page 50, saying that actually it is not the accounts that are different, but rather it is the two financial management concepts. The two financial management concepts is what ends up being different. Whether an account increases on the debit side or it increases on the credit side is not up to the account. It is up to the two financial management concepts. The first concept in financial management is that we must have sources of funds. As a business, for us to exist, we must get money from somewhere. That is when the accounting equation comes into play. We are either going to get money from the owners or get money from third parties, the loan from the bank. Are we together? So that is the thing. Firstly, we need to have sources of funds. And then these sources of funds must somehow be equal to what the second financial management principle of application. Once a business has money, you don't keep. Once the business has money, you don't keep the money in the business. We use it to generate income. To make it a business, there must be like some income streams, like streams of cash inflows. Income in itself, income in its definition, increases or decreases in equity. Then goes and says that there must not be contributions from the owner. So increases in equity, but not being contributions from the owner. But that, putting that aside, we've got 6 elements, or let's say 6 groups of categories of accounts. What are they? Categories of accounts, the extended accounting equation, so as to say. Okay, we're gonna have assets, drawings, income, expenses, and liabilities. Where does the business get money from? The business is going to get money from the owners, being capital. The business will get money because it has assets which make income. The business is going to get money from what? And then the business is going to get money from the loan from the bank. Will somehow be a resource for the business to use in the production of money. Now, we go and say that once any of these can be a source of funds, once these funds are there, they will be invested. They will be applied to something that will give us, an advantage, so as to say. So to give us an advantage, we are going to invest in assets. What are assets? Resources owned by the entity as a result of past event. I think the definition is in your book. And guess what? Even if you don't have to technically remember it, you have to know it. You have to generally know it. Because it can happen that we give you multiple choice or match A and B. You need to be able to match asset to a correct explanation or description, even if it's not the definition itself, but somehow you need to know in general what an asset is. Are we together? So once we are able to say that we've got assets, that's how we'll end up having income. Assets will lead us to have income. We buy things and sell them, and then drawings, the opposite of capital. Drawings is what makes capital necessary. The owner gave you 100,000 because he had a lump sum. If you kept the 100,000 for yourself and not invested in the business, after 3 years it would have ended. Like you would have finished all the 100,000. But since you had you had a thought and then invested in the business, each and every month you are getting 10,000 from the business. In drawings, that is the advantage of the fact that you've invested in a business. If these drawings were not there, no one was going to invest in any business. Why? Do you see that? Why should I invest if I'm not going to get anything out of the business? Remember, that's when we're dealing with a sole trader like you are now. The only way you can get money out of a business is by making a drawing. Like there is no other way. Are we together? You need to make a drawing. There's no other way you can get money. Any other way is fraud. If you take money and you don't require it as a drawing, you are committing fraud as the owner of the business. So we go and say that, and then the cost of doing business. We've got assets. These are application of funds. So how do we then end up saying that some of them are increasing on the debit side and some of them are increasing on the credit side? How did we make that leap? Then we go to page 44, where there is an illustration of saying that all our sources of funds will increase. Increase on credit side. And then all our application of funds will increase on the debit side. There, we are done. All our assets, drawings and expenses increase on the debit side. All our capital, income and liabilities increase on the credit side. That is a principle that I really can't explain it in complicated English, rather than it is the difference that exists. Somehow, once we have, grouping them into assets, it was simple. They have similar characteristics. Grouping them into expenses, it was simple. They had similar characteristics. Now the decision that we make is that each and everything that is within assets, drawings, and expenses will increase on the debit side. Bank increases on the debit side because it is an asset. Are we together? Now a loan, on page 50, a loan and a bank overdraft are both liabilities. Right? Meaning that whether this is a loan or is a bank overdraft, the fact that it is a liability says that it is a source of fund. Now we know that all sources of funds account increase on the credit side. Does that make sense? Then we can go and say that all our bank overdraft or liabilities will be increasing opposite to our application assets, our application accounts. So at the end of the day, all these accounts are either going to increase, the account is either going to increase on the debit side or the credit side. How do we know that? Because some of these accounts are source of funds and some of these accounts are application of funds. Sources of funds increase on the credit side, application of funds increase on the debit side. Once you are able to learn that, you can actually, that's a mnemonic, it actually makes sense. The more you say it, the more you'll remember it. But it's not enough that you are going to know that sources of funds increase on the credit side and application of funds increase on the debit side. It's not enough that you know that. You need to know, when I say sources of funds, what am I talking about? When I say application of funds, which accounts are those? Are we together? Then our extended accounting equation, we can actually put it into, make it a mathematical expression, which makes sense. We've got assets is equals to capital minus drawings plus income minus expenses plus liabilities. And then we go and say that it's another way of looking at it. If you can't remember these schematic here, you can probably remember the, why do I write liabilities here? While others are. Okay. So you can go and say that even if I can't remember this one is a mathematical expression. It's way too simpler to remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 characters rather than the whole shindig that's here. So we go and say that once we have them, remember assets is here, capital is here, drawings is here, income is here, expenses here, liabilities here. They are all part of either sources of funds or application of funds. We say that once you remember the mathematical expressions, we're going to say increase and then we have decrease. Increase, debit, credit, debit, credit, debit, credit. At the end of the day, this is the same as you knowing sources of funds and application of funds. Where do they increase? Where do they decrease? Are we together? So, and then this increase also talks about balances. We did balances in one of our classes whereby we changed, it was the last class, when we looked at the previous lesson paper and they had the fact that once we've got sales, is it going to be a debit or a credit balance? And is it going to be asset, income, expense, or liabilities? Remember that. So once you do that, it's not only is it an increase, it is also if there is balance and a balance in an asset, that asset must have a debit balance. If income somehow has a balance, that balance must be on the credit side. Where the account increase, that is where we will find the balance. Are we together? Or the total. Then we go and say then the opposite will be decreases. The opposite will be decreases. Our decreases will be underneath. We've got credit, debit, credit. I mean, it's pretty much obvious what we are doing. These are decreases. Are we together, guys? All right. If we're together, then let's go and say, let's see. Then that was our, yeah. And then after the general ledger, what do we end up having? The trial balance. The trial balance. I think I've already started saying what a trial balance will look like. Our trial balance will have assets, capital, drawings, income, expenses, and liabilities. Even if they are mixed up. In your test, they were mixed up. Correct? And then, seriously, in your test, they were mixed up. What will we ask you to do? Find liabilities. Because you need to be able to tell from a list of accounts which ones are liabilities, which ones are incomes, which ones are expenses. Right? That was a trial balance. Now, a trial balance is going to have two sides. Even if we have one-sided a trial balance. Each and everything that's an account here, if it somehow has a balance or a total, the total for all assets will be on the debit side. The total for all liabilities will be on the credit side. If we have capital somehow, it will have a credit balance. If we have drawings, you look at your extended accounting equation, drawings, debit. So we will have an amount here. If we've got assets, our assets will have debit balances. All our assets will have debit balances. Some of these things must be an asset. For instance, we always test you on either, or let me not say we, not probably, I was not there. So your assessments always include one of the two, like basic and asset. And asset which does not change. If we tell you to process a debtor's journal or a debtor's control, the debtor's T account, and somehow you mix and match, and you end up with a credit balance, you must know the two account. There is no way debtors is going to have a credit balance. Are we together? Yeah. Yes. We spoke about bank overdraft becomes a liability. Bank overdraft becomes pardon? In a trial balance.
Okay.
Yeah, if
bank
then it will come on the credit side. It works the same as it's a liability. All liabilities will come here and say all liabilities have a credit balance. So you see, is it knowing? Remember, we did it in the test. It should not confuse us now that we are trying to give you the structure. We are just saying that all liabilities will be on the credit side. So when we know that something must be a liability, for instance, we know that there is no way we are going to record an investment as a loan. Once we've got a loan, they will tell us that there will be a trial balance which is wrong. Somehow we've got assets on the credit side. And we will tell you that an inexperienced bookkeeper prepared it. Yeah. So, no, the thing is that a bank as favorable must be on the credit side. So, you are not going to say bank is an asset while they are telling you that it's unfavorable. If they say bank overdraft, yes, bank is an asset, but bank overdraft is a liability. So, at the end of the day, in the same sense that you were able to go and say, I'm adding liabilities together, all our liabilities must be on the credit side. If they give us something as clear as debtors control, we know that debtors control is an asset. It must be on the debit side. Even if the inexperienced bookkeeper has placed it on the credit side, as in our operation, we'll put it on the debit side. But there's always like 4 marks, like something like that will be maybe let's say 10 marks. There's gonna be those 4 marks which are like pretty much very simple. Capital. Like there's no way we're gonna ever have a debit capital. Are we together? So when they give you capital and it's on the debit side, that is when you know that okay, this one is correct. Like I already have 1 mark. Are we together? They give you drawings. We know that drawings must be on the debit side. They give us on page 50, if you look, if they give us any one of those assets, be it vehicles, land and buildings, furniture, equipment, if it's any of that, we know that it's an asset. It must be on the debit side. The last 2 elements are also on the trial balance as income, and then we've got expenses. Our incomes must be on the credit side. Our expenses must be on the debit side. That's like the intricacies of accounting, guys. Like how the one thing that we learned in class number 1 actually makes sense everywhere we go. The fact that in the first class we tried to look at the extended accounting equation. Once you are comfortable with it now, you see how it helps you to put everything else into perspective. Everything that we're doing somehow hinges on the fact that accounting is accounting. Then, this is our trial balance. We've got a debit side and a credit side. And then, we know that all our incomes are on the credit side, all our assets are on the debit side, capital is on the credit side, expenses are on the debit side. We know that. And then it goes a little bit further and say that a trial balance must have sections. A trial balance must have sections. You've got two sections of a trial balance. Then about your accounting, what do you call them?
Balance sheets.
We've got the balance sheet section. Balance sheet section. Then we've got the nominal accounts section. Don't try to say there is no definition of nominal account section. There's no definition of balance sheet section. The difference is drawn in the fact that when we talk about balance sheet section, we are talking about 4 elements of our extended accounting equation. When we talk about the nominal section, we are talking about income and expenses. So, when this inexperienced bookkeeper has taken something which is clearly an expense, I mean, the name rent expense, it has expense in it. It tells you that it's an expense. So when this inexperienced bookkeeper took rent expense and placed it under the balance sheet section, you know that they are inexperienced. You can see their inexperience coming through. And then you, being an accounting student, you take rent expense from the balance sheet, you put it in the nominal account section, and you get a mark for that. Guys, even if it's on the, you see, all expenses are on the debit side. Even if it's on the debit side, but under the balance sheet section, it is wrong. Are we together? It is wrong. We know that once we call something, we've got two sections, the balance sheet section and the nominal account section. Now, the nominal account section must have all incomes and all expenses. So, an income is correct. Once we say correct this, an income, oh, by the way, we are not going to correct all of them. We are not going to give you a trial balance which is all wrong. Some of them will actually be correct. And then experience will go and, I've seen, actually this happened last year, where somebody just went and switched everything up. Like whatever on debit came to credit, whatever on credit came to debit. And then guess what? That meant that you basically lost all the marks. I mean, if I'm trying to be very strict, even anything that you got wrong, once I saw that all you do was to switch these two things, come on, you don't know what you're doing. There's no mark you deserve. Even if somehow you stumbled into something that's correct. If I know that all you did was to take credit side and put it on debit, take debit and put it on credit, I'm not going to give you any mark. And then, so what do we know? An income is correct when the income is under the nominal account section and it's on the credit side. So once you've got an income which is anywhere but that agreement of saying that our income must be under nominal sections account and it must be on the credit side. If that somehow is not true about your income, then your income is wrong. If somehow you've got an income which is yes on the credit side but it's under the balance sheet section, you are wrong. If somehow you've got an asset which is on the credit side, just off there you are wrong. Are we together? So I don't know, like when we are applying a test, when you are applying a test, what do we start with? Number one, you must start with the account. Decide on where the account, is the account an asset, capital, drawings, income, expense, or liability? Is the account. So the first decision that you will make is the account. Let's say this is a trial balance, a trial balance test. So once you are testing your trial balance, you firstly say, I've got the account. Is the account an asset, capital, drawings, income, expense, or liability? Once you've decided that, let's decide where do we go. Do we decide on the section or do we decide on the debit and credit? What, like, okay, we've got an account. The account is rent expense. Now, we are trying to correct a trial balance. Are we going to end up saying that the next decision, once you got rent expense, how do you make it right in your trial balance? There are two things remain. We are either going to decide on the debit and credit or on the balance sheet section and the nominal sections. Which one should you start with? Debit or credit or the section? Section. Why are you angry? No, okay, why is this like, it's like I said no, I'm not saying no, I'm just saying section. Okay, so we've got rent expense. It becomes an expense. Okay, it becomes the element before we have to decide where the element goes, I think, like actually, debit and credit are a little bit too closer to the element. Once you have good drawings, you know it's debit. Before you know that, what? Your drawings in the balance sheet section. But then the test can be mixed up. I guess, like at the end of the day, you need to be 100% correct. So when you are applying a test, I've got rent expense. Then let's go and say the balance. We've got an account, and then where must the balance be? Must it be debit or must it be credit? We've got an account, it's rent expense. Rent expense, once we've decided that it is an expense, we go and say expenses, are they debit or are they credit? And then expenses will be debit. Now, once we say that it's on the debit, we go and say, okay, expenses, in which section are they? The sections, we've got two. We've got two to choose from. It's gonna be the balance sheet section. Then we've got the nominal account section. I mean, your test is objective. Your test is very objective. No wonder we can test it all we want. It's not like I have to be subjective when marking. You are either right or wrong. Like there is no middle ground. You can't get it half correct. You are either right or wrong. It's the account. Account must be one of the elements. Is it an asset? Is it capital? Is it drawings? Is it income? Is it expense? Or is it a liability? You've got a what? 1 in 6 chance of being wrong, of being right. 1 out of 6 says you'll be right once you are making this decision. Now, once you get this right, the thing is that, guys, once you get rent expense wrong, if you classify rent expense as capital, everything else becomes wrong. Because your balance, capital must have a credit balance. Capital must have a credit balance. Already you are wrong. And then capital will be in the balance sheet section. You are also wrong. Are we together? So once we have that test correct, once we have that internalized, we should be comfortable. And okay, there we've got a trial balance. All 4. How many trial balances do we have? 4 or 5? I'm not sure. Yeah, they're different. Yeah, no, not necessarily different, just where we are. Like actually this trial balance, we are going to have maybe 3 major ones. The trial balance that you take from your general ledger.
You're smart. When I grow up, I'll be smart like you. Guys, you must go back to set. We go to student portal. To click more facts, you see where it is written on set. Set means student evaluation of the student. You must tell us what we are doing right, what we are not doing right. Your voice must be heard. We tried to pull reports last week. We're finding 6-7 on each lecture. And we cannot make an informed decision based on 6-7. When the lecturer is teaching more than 200 students, it's only 6-7. What are themselves? So I'll go around this whole week again. You put on your different WhatsApp groups so that the others can get the message. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
Sir. Thank you, sir. You guys said you did that, right? So it's an announcement. You don't have to wait a day if you've done it. I think you don't allow you. But then you can go and change your answers if it allows you.
You are
Okay. In any way, the trial balance that we're going to take, remember we balanced our balance sheet. We went and said a debit balance versus a credit balance. Which one is bigger? Should we go to it? Revision of balancing the general account, the general account, the T account. Okay, if not, then it will be an objective one from my side. We'll come to it. But then, whether the balance, remember right now, you were balancing without knowing your trial balance. So, even if somehow you were not even looking at the, and by the way, the name of the account does not say where your total is going to end up being. The fact that it is debtors control does not mean that your balance is going to be on the debit side. We only know that it's wrong when it's on the credit side and debtors control. But when you are balancing, you don't balance an account because it's bank. I have to balance it in this way. All accounts are balancing the same way. It doesn't matter the name of the account. Now, we're going to know that somehow one of the amount is wrong when we take debtors control and it's on the credit side. We know that one of these things might have been wrong. Your friends in financial management are now doing their, what do you call it? Which is that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It becomes debtors. That we're gonna do something. I don't think it's this semester. Okay, if it's this semester, wait, we are doing debtors control. Are we doing debtors? Yeah, we are doing debtors. I think in one of your modules, 6 or 7. Okay. No, we are going to have a transaction where we are transferring creditors to debtors. Once you start owing your debtors, they are no longer your debtors; they are your creditors. Are we together? Once you start owing somebody money, you can't keep saying, I owe this person a negative, this person owes me negative 500. No, they don't owe you negative 500. You owe them 500. They are your creditor. So we are going to do something which we say we are transferring debtors who we now owe money into creditors. Then we go and say that all the balances that we are taking from our trial balance actually helps us to say that was all our debit equals to our credit. Remember, we got debit and credit. At the end of the day, when you total your trial balance here, if you've got 9,000 on the debit side, you must have 9,000 on the credit side. When you make a total and it does not correspond, it says that something is wrong somewhere. Basically, your double entry was wrong. You debited 500 somewhere and credited 300 with the same transaction. Now, a trial balance is going to help us do that. But before it helps us do that, as we just copy the 3-year balances, when we just, nowadays it is computerized, everything is computerized. What we are doing is just so we can understand the process and we can catch out anything that is wrong. Because once we've got ledger accounts, the computer will balance them. And we will say that, we call it pulling a report. We want to pull a report of a trial balance. This report, the first report of just saying that whatever bank is at, we're going to put it here. Whatever loan is at, we're going to put it here. Remember, bank can go negative. So somehow, when you started with a positive balance and you balance it and it's negative, it does not mean that you're wrong. I guess that those are the small things that you have to realize. It means that you just have to change the name. It is no longer bank, it is bank overdraft. Are we together? Even if you don't change the name here, when you bring it into the trial balance, it must be under creditors. No, under liabilities, I mean to say. It must be a bank overdraft under liabilities. We go and say that the first report that we put, or our first trial balance of just taking a balance to wherever it is, taking a balance to wherever it is the pre-adjustment trial balance. We've got the pre-adjustment trial balance. And then we're gonna do adjustments. Adjustment says that something was wrong somewhere, let's go and correct everything. They tell us that we recorded in rent income instead of rent expense. We recorded in maintenance instead of vehicle. It happens. And now each and everything that they tell us, that is where our general journal is going to be most useful, over and above the fact that we are going to have credit losses as a basis. But usually, even credit losses, depreciation, settlement discount, settlement discount will deal with them in a different way. I don't think settlement discount. You guys are no longer doing settlement discount and settlement allowed, like settlement discount allowed and granted. You guys are now adjusting the elements themselves. I think we did it on Friday when we said that when we return inventory or when they give us a discount on inventory, we are going to decrease the value of the inventory. Are we together? So basically now we are trying to run away from the fact that people think that, or let's say organizations believe that when they say settlement discount, they are doing anyone a favor. No, like no organization buys for 5 rand and sells for 4 rand. It doesn't happen. If they tell you that it used to be 100, now it is 20, it means that they were charging you a lot of money because they probably bought it for 5 rand. So all we are doing now is adjusting. If it's inventory, we adjust inventory. If it's purchases, we adjust purchases. I hope that right now when I say inventory and purchases, you are able to draw a difference. What's the difference? Purchases and inventory. And inventory, yes. Yeah. Where is the difference between purchases and inventory? Why do we end up making purchases and how do we end up making inventory? So they do not understand the difference. I should probably not give them marks.
I don't like the time. Let's get issues and I'm business and if you can reduce then you create.
Create? Yes, no.
Okay, I think purchases like can buy anything, asset, or then inventory is based on like stock.
Okay. So no one deserves the marks. I'm going to take them back. Or I'm not going to count the activity. These people did an assignment which drew a difference between the perpetual inventory system and the periodic inventory system. That's the difference between inventory and purchases. Purchases is only because of the periodic inventory, and we use the periodic inventory system, and the opposite of the periodic inventory system is the perpetual inventory system, in which instead of purchases, we use inventory. It not make sense. But you see, that's the thing. You guys actually, most of the time, you are not, like, actually all our supervisors are saying that you guys do have like a very short retention span. It's not that you never did it, you forgot it, and somehow you getting it back, it's like, you see, every time, like this kind of a question is supposed to trigger your memory. Oh, I was working on this, and somehow the difference that I made was when we were doing inventory systems. Or is there any other difference that somehow you were taught which draws a difference between purchases and inventory? Which one? Like there is no other difference. The most basic difference is a business that is using the periodic inventory system. We don't even have to tell you that they're using the periodic inventory system. The minute they've got the account purchases, we know is the periodic inventory system. We don't have to tell you that it's the perpetual inventory system. The minute they've got trading inventory, or even actually over and above trading inventory, the minute they've got cost of sales, we know that they are using the perpetual inventory system. So I hope, like I said, at the end of the day, we're going to teach you things in compartments. We're going to teach you things in apartments before we show you how the whole flat fits together. The end of the day is just one flat, but then there are different apartments which you are going to learn individually, and you learn them individually, one at a time. If I said, like, here's the thing, if I had said draw a difference between the perpetual inventory system and the periodic inventory system, you would somehow get 50%, 60% of that question correct. But now that you have to work backwards to say the difference between what is in the periodic inventory system and what is in the perpetual inventory system. So at the end of the day, it's all just a giant building which fits together perfectly, or a giant, what do they call it? A giant puzzle with 6 pieces. All right, now we've got the pre-adjustment trial balance. We're going to do adjustments. Adjustments are what they tell us. We did something wrong. We did something right. This happened. That happened. We've got credit losses. We've got these things. We do those. Those are adjustments. And then once we are finished with adjustments, we're going to say that we've got something called a post-adjustment trial balance. Pre-adjustment, we took it from the general ledger. Post-adjustment, because we've made some adjustments. They told us about some adjustments, like, pardon? If I can hear you breathe, there's something wrong. So tell us what's wrong. Is there anything wrong? Okay. Okay. No, it's okay. You're going to be writing the exam by yourself. I won't be around. So good luck with that. Let's go and say that now from the post-adjustment trial balance, this is because we processed adjustments. And then when we have our post-adjustment trial balance, we do what we call closing transfers. Closing transfers. We've got a post-adjustment trial balance, we do closing transfers. Closing transfers is the calculation of profit. So, there we go. Let's say that our pre-adjustment trial balance might not even have sections. Our pre-adjustment trial balance might actually just be a list of accounts without the sections of, say, is it the balance sheet section or is it the nominal account section. But our post-adjustment trial balance must be a little bit more neat. Our pre-adjustment trial balance might actually not balance. Are we together? But after our adjustments, it must balance. The post-adjustment trial balance, it must balance. It must have the balance sheet section. It must have the nominal section. There must be a debit side. There must be a credit side. That is our post-adjustment trial balance. We do what we call closing transfer. Closing transfers, you want to do it at the end of the semester, your last module, the last page of your book, or the last pages of your book, or let's say the last learning unit is closing transfer, year-end procedures. I think it's learning unit 9. Year-end procedures, we are simply calculating profit. The fact that we're going to go and say cost of sales, plus sales minus cost of sales, plus income minus expenses. I will do it. But then we're going to do them using the general journal. Everything happens in the general journal. So we're going to come here and say we've got closing transfers. The closing transfers is simply us calculating profit. We're going to take all our incomes. We're going to subtract all our expenses. And then the last thing we're going to do is to say that let's take the difference. This is what we call performance, right? Income minus expenses. Is performance is what we call profit or loss. We're going to take whether it's a profit or loss, year-end procedure says it belongs to the owner. Whether it's a profit or it's a loss, it belongs to the owner. We're going to transfer it to capital. Now the owner will come in and say, did I make any profit? Yes, you made a lot of profit. Then you'll have drawings. Are we together? Then we're going to also take drawings and put them in our capital. Those are year-end procedures. Your closing transfers. We transfer income. We're going to create a lot of accounts. We're going to make it complicated when we get to it. But right now we've got an outline. After our closing transfers, we are no longer going to have expenses. We are no longer going to have incomes. Right. We just transferred incomes and expenses to capital. So we are finally going to have what we call a post closing. A post-closing trial balance. A post-closing trial balance, we know that it is not going to have the nominal account section. Are we together? What did we do in closing transfers? We cancelled, we wrote off all the incomes and all the expenses, called them a profit or a loss. And then we took whatever it was, a profit or loss, we took it to capital. Are we together? Now, our post-closing trial balance does not have the nominal account section. So we'll just say that this is our balance sheet section trial balance. Balance sheet section only. So at the end of, in your exam, it might actually come. We usually do it in the exam. Like in your test, we actually ask you for either a pre-adjustment trial balance, a simplified trial balance. I think that is one of your outcomes. We just say a simplified prepare a simple trial balance. A simple trial balance is one of the first two. No, actually it is the first one, the pre-adjustment trial balance. You say whatever total you have. I think when I'm being lenient, I'm going to give you the mark. When I'm being lenient, guys, I'm going to give you the mark. Even if your debtors control, if you balance your debtors control and it was on the credit side, I'm going to give you a mark if when I go into your trial balance, I'm going to find the money that you had on the credit balance in debtors control. Remember, it is just going to be a list of accounts. You're going to take the totals from your general ledger. So it's a simple trial balance of saying whatever total, whether it's on the debit side or the credit side, when it goes on the trial balance, it must be on that side. So we'll take it that it is this one, the pre-adjustment trial balance. You guys are gonna, you guys are gonna do this. Yeah, you guys are gonna do your adjustments in your second semester in accounting 1B. So we're gonna skip the whole adjustment thing, do closing transfers in learning unit 9. And then after that, you need to prepare a post-closing trial balance. The one that only has a balance sheet section because the income is no longer there. The expense is no longer there. We don't have a nominal account section. Are we together? So, yeah, exactly. No, if you're not interested, okay, somebody come and take a picture, you'll give to your friend who's not here. They'll somehow understand it. You're not going to understand it if you're not in class. Even if I send you the video, it's not clear. But if you were listening as I was talking. Which video? What about it? No, you can come here. You can come here. You can stand here. All right. So let's go and say, let's look at this question as I go to get your register or something. So, and then customer loyalty, the fact that even those who don't have money presently can actually buy from you. Are we together? Even those who don't have money now can actually buy from you. It says that when they have money, they will come and pay you back. It's another benefit. And then, let's explain the risk associated with offering credit to customers. Then, why is it bad? Why is it bad? Here we were saying, why is it good? Now, why is it bad? It is both bad and good. Pardon? Yeah, they might not pay you back. It happens. And I think that is it's like the one most important risk. If you're selling on credit, chances are that you might not get back your money or your resources. Then we go and say explain. Once you've explained basically the benefits and the risks associated with selling on credit, we then go and say this whole recording thing. Recording in different journals, or let's say credit journals. How many credit journals? If we are buying on credit or somehow selling on credit, creditors journal, creditors allowance journal, debtors journal, and the debtors allowance journal. Both credit sales and credit purchases, both their returns. If you buy something on credit and you return it, in which journal? There are 4 journals about doing credit. And then I think the most technical thing that we're going to be looking into this week is the fact that how do we account for VAT when we are specifically dealing with debtors or creditors? How does the VAT work when we are dealing with debtors and creditors? We dealt with it last week with the transaction, but since that is the most correct thing, I need to come to you guys and explain why is it correct, dealing with that individually. And then record duplicate credit invoice. Okay, this is same thing. Recording in the general journal. I think that was what we were doing last week. So last week we did recording in the credit in the general journal. We looked at it from the perspective of source documents. If it happens, people, if it happens that somehow we give you source documents, you must be able to record. If it happens that we give you transactions, you must be able to process those transactions, or let's say analyze those transactions in your general journal. Remember, general journal is just another name for us trying to say a special table. And then comprehensive exercise somewhere during the week, we explained how double entry works. How we are still saying debit one account and credit another account. Debit one account and credit another account. In the cash book, which is no longer there, the cash book receipts, we are debiting bank. That's the main account. In the cash book payment, we are crediting bank. In the debtors journal, we are debiting debtors control. In the debtors allowance journal, we are crediting debtors control. So you need to make that association. Somehow you must have it in your notes somewhere. Because it is through our journals. We're going to take the totals for journals and prepare the general ledger. So when you know that, if I've got, remember your journals is just a series of columns. All your journals are somehow going to have a column, except for the very special journal. The columns are not necessarily helpful in this case, but then everything else, there is going to be a column for the account called bank. There's going to be a column for the account called sales. There's going to be a column for the account called inventory. There's always going to be an account in our journal. What happens is that once we've got this total for bank here, depending on the book that the total is in, we are either going to debit the account or credit the account. Are we together? Depending on where this column for bank is, in which journal, we are only going to have bank in the 2 cash books, either cash book payments or cash book receipts. The thing is that when we've got bank, the total for bank coming from cash book receipts, do we debit bank account or credit bank account? That's what you have to know. And then for each and every journal, once we've got debtors allowance journal and we've got an account called cost of sales, do we debit cost of sales or credit cost of sales when we are in the debtors allowance journal? There is going to be a column for cost of sales. Must it be credited or debited? Is the question. Are we together? Okay, if we are together, if we're working together in that way, what? Or a more. Okay. And then post a complete set of subsidiary journals to the general ledger. That's how you are posting it. As long as you know that when I've got this column in this journal, when I want to take it to the general ledger, it must be on the debit side or the credit side. You are 50% correct. Even if you did not study, if your gods are with you. And then analyzing a variety of different transactions under the accounting equation. It was tested in the test. Should it be tested? Okay, it's not going to be tested actually. It might be examined. It might be in the examination, but not in the test. You did an accounting equation, right?
Yes.
The only thing you did not do was that it did not include VAT. So now we were looking at an accounting equation which has VAT, where they are saying that we are a VAT vendor at 15%. Are you able to account for the VAT? Then we've got dealing with errors and a draft trial balance. Dealing with errors, that's where we're going to get our credit losses, our depreciation, our settlement discount. They told us, on Friday we looked at a petty cash voucher. Was it page 165? Where they said that there was a discount which we were not given. Now after we complained, they gave us a discount. It's an example, right? So if you look at the answer, you will see that there is no account called settlement discount. There's no account called trade discount. They are all somehow taken directly to sales and sales returns maybe and what? Cost of sales. We actually adjust whatever we did. Now, we will then go and do inventory systems next week and for just a week. You've already done your assignment. Yeah, we are just going to take it further. Yeah, you guys had an assignment. Eh? People, I told you to write half a, was it a one page assignment whereby like seriously? Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. I know it says you don't write that.
No, I am actually. I'm gonna give you an assignment again. About this. I'm not gonna come to class and say that we together record this 8 journals. It's too long. You're gonna spend the whole week doing one activity. So I'm just gonna give it to you guys. We've got 4 hours in a week or 6 hours in a week. You can have 6 hours in a period of 2 days. No, okay, in a period of a week. You can take the same 6 hours, apply them to an assignment. When we come into class, we'll be working on the answers that you guys have. So as a way of revision, now, you guys don't study. That's why we do this. Now, if you do study, it will actually be you revising. Okay, Mina, it's only an advantage for you. And how is it a disadvantage? No, the thing is that worst case scenario, guys, even if you're not studying, once you do the assignment, it will push you to study. If you were studying, it will be something which is a given to you. Yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, I'm just trying to give you guys marks, to allocate some marks for you guys studying. Yeah. We'll decide. Next week. No, not even next week, even the week after that, before we write test. Yeah. I mean, yeah, before we write test 2, somehow in our revision, we will use the assignment that you guys were able to work on. The one that you studied. Okay. And then in week 8, the assignment will help us put this. Is it week 8? Yeah. Is it next week? Yeah. Next week, your assignment will help us to put everything here into perspective. Calculate cost of sales using the periodic inventory system. Some of us gave examples. Some of us did not. But then it's an assignment. I gave you the marks. Explain why some businesses choose perpetual and why some choose periodic. Something of next week. But then, okay, let me go get your attendance register.